Hello. Today we're going to be talking about the physics behind ancient siege weapons such as the trebuchet and the ballista.
Let's look at trebuchets first. Here's an example of one being launched. The way a trebuchet works is it drops the counterweight, and as the counterweight falls, the beam rotates around the pivot point, causing the sling with the payload in it to accelerate upwards very quickly, and then the payload is ejected from the sling and flies out towards the target. The counterweight is a very heavy object that is accelerated downwards by gravity. This downward acceleration causes the other end of the beam with the sling attached to it to accelerate upwards. When the trebuchet is set up like this, the counterweight has a lot of potential energy since it is hoisted up in the air like this. However, once the trebuchet is released, that potential energy in the counterweight is transformed into kinetic energy as the counterweight falls and the sling rises. Let's take one last look at trebuchets and make sure we understand how the physics work. As you can see, the counterweight falls. As it is accelerated downwards by gravity, it pulls one end of the beam down. The other end of the beam is then accelerated upwards very quickly, causing the projectile to be ejected from the sling and fire out over a distance with very high kinetic energy. The other ancient weapon we're going to talk about is the ballista. Here's an example of a ballista in action. The ballista works similarly to a bow in that an object is pulled back on a string and then released to be fired at high speeds. Tension is what causes the ballista to work. The farther you pull the drawstring down the shaft of the ballista, the higher the tension you're going to have on that drawstring. Whenever you have more tension, the object is going to be able to travel much faster and much farther. The reason for this is because when you have more tension on the string, the object loaded onto that drawstring is going to have a much higher potential energy, so that once it is released, it's going to end up having a much higher kinetic energy.
Hopefully you learned a lot from this physics video. In review, trebuchets are powered by the acceleration of gravity on the counterweight, and ballista are powered by the tension on the string. Both of these things allow for projectiles to be launched very far distances and with a lot of kinetic energy. Thank you for watching.